Hey everyone, it's Kirsten, and this is my race report for the Ocala half distance Ironman, which is put on by the HITS Triathlon series. It went down on April 1st, 2017, and I was using it as my early season race. I always like to get in an early season race just to see what I need to work on for my races later in the season. So I was going to be in Florida anyway for a conference, and I thought I would just stay down there, visit some friends and family, and do the HITS Triathlon Ocala half distance race, which is, if you're not familiar with half distance, it's a 1.2 mile swim, a 56-mile bike, and a 13.1 mile run. So it was actually a pretty perfect day as far as weather went. When I got up, it was probably in the 50s. It maybe got up to 85, so it felt a little warm in the afternoon, but the most of the day was overcast, and the course is actually really protected, so it actually never felt super hot. So I trained pretty well for the race for swimming and running. I swam and ran a lot. I've been biking. I've been doing a bike streak for the past 535 days, I think I'm at. So I've been on my bike a lot, but it's mostly been indoors because in Colorado, in the winter, it's hard to get outside. And I'm kind of lazy and kind of a wuss when it comes to cold and prepping for outside rides. So I decided to do most of my training on the trainer. So I didn't have high hopes for the bike going into the race. So the night before the race, I actually stayed. I slept in my car in the parking lot, which worked out really well because then I had a front row parking spot, and I could wake up 1 minute before I needed to start racing if I wanted to. So I got up and did all my pre-race things. And since I hadn't raced since last season, it took a little bit longer. I had to remember some things. There was a few things I forgot. So I'm glad this was my pre-season race. So I can make sure to get them fixed before I start my regular racing. So the swim started, it was a one loop swim for the half distance. We started with the people doing the full Ironman distance. Ours was a one loop swim. The sun was just coming up. It was really gorgeous. The water was very warm. I would say low 70s, but I still wore a wetsuit, and I didn't push it really hard, and it's at sea level, so it's a little easier. So I never got really hot, but it was definitely warm. I couldn't see the buoys at all. My goggles, I didn't even check this, but my goggles were so scratched up from last season. So I did order some new goggles for my next race. So I really couldn't see anything. And there was only about 100 people in both distances. So I followed people as best I could. I ended up the first female out of the water, the second person. The swim, I found out later, was a little bit long, so it took me 36 minutes. My normal swim at that distance takes a little under 30. So I was a little bummed when I saw my time because I felt super fast and I felt really good swimming, so it was a little long. So that's all good. So I got out, quick transition because it's a small race, so everything's right there, so it's actually really easy to transition. So I think my transition was a minute something. And then went out on the bike. And I don't wear a watch when I race anymore, so I'm always surprised about my times. I thought I was going way faster on the bike. It felt smooth and easy. It was pretty flat. It's a really pretty flat course. There's a couple rollers toward the turnaround. It's just an out and back for the half. And I felt great. But my time was a little slower than I wanted it to be. My time was 2:53 for the bike part. And the only thing I was really sore with is, because I've only been on my bike outside my longest outside ride has been 26 miles, and this was 56. So my pubic bone from being in arrow position for almost 3 hours was really sore and bruised. So every little bump in the last half hour, I was just like, ow. So, but that'll get better by the end of the season because I'm going to start riding outside more. So 2:53, I had two girls pass me on the bike. And when I got to transition again, it was a really small transition area, so my transition was like a minute something again. Went out on the run. I felt amazing going into the run. So I didn't really, on the bike, about mile 40, my hips started cramping up a little bit. I think just being in arrow position and just not being on my bike a lot, they started cramping up quite a bit. So I backed off a little bit on the bike, and I never got out of breath because I was at sea level and I wasn't working that hard, but I didn't want to push it too much because I'm not used to the heat and humidity in Florida. So I just kept it pretty moderate the whole time. So starting off on the run, I felt amazing. And I knew I passed the first girl at mile, like half a mile, and the second girl at like mile 2 or 2.5. And I felt really strong. I knew I could just keep up that pace. And I didn't want to go any faster. I didn't want to push it because, again, my hips and my quads and my calves felt like they could cramp up. I was taking a lot of salt tablets, but they didn't cramp up. I kept my steps really small, and I kept it at a moderate pace. I never got my heart rate up. My run ended up being 1:46, which was actually exactly what my goal was for my run. So my overall time was 5:19. I got first place female, and it was really cool because the top 5 girls were all in their 40s. So 40 is the new 20 for sure. And I had a really fun time there. I would definitely do that race again. It's a great preseason. Florida's kind of far from Colorado. It took me like 3 days to drive out there. So I was a little tired. I'd been out there for 2 weeks already. So, but I was just, go, visiting people and doing stuff. So I was a little tired going in. I tapered for about a week. So I felt pretty tapered and good going into the race. So I had a really great race. I love the HITS, series, the HITS Triathlon series, because they have a race for every distance, sprint. I think they even have a super sprint, Olympic, half and full, every place they go. And I like smaller races. I like being able to park, one step away from the transition area. I don't have to take my bike the night before if I don't want to. There's not a huge mass start. They're just really low key, great support. So I highly recommend their races. So if you guys have any questions about it, or any other races, or any questions for me about triathlon, health, fitness, nutrition, wellness, please reach out to me. I would love to connect. All right, I hope you guys have a great day. See you next time. Bye.